What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of In Conversation with.
Thank you so much for having me. That's awesome.
A lot of these artists need the money that comes from touring.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation with. I'm your host, Andre Williamson, and today I'm joined with one of my good friends. Met him back in the TV days. Now, owner, entrepreneur, business owner in the marketing industry. My guy, Peter. What's going on today, man?
Well, I think another day of lockdown and COVID, but that's okay. Got to wear the hat because no one's seen their barber in a minute. But that's all right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. And you're right. I'm just trying to find the best way to cover my head. I'm wearing the North Face today. Tomorrow might be a hat. We'll see. I don't know. Just want to change it up.
Looks good though.
Thank you. Lots to get into. You're one of the guys that I think about when I think of, I have a marketing question or, any sort of marketing ideas. I think you're the guy that is, one of the most well-versed in sort of the industry. And I thought sitting down with to talk about what are the ways that you're seeing companies sort of pivot during this time, and what are the trends that you're seeing happen during this time. But the first thing that I want to get into with you is just maybe tell me or tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you do and what are some of the companies that you work with right now.
Yeah, I just recently exited an agency that I founded a while ago called Navigate Group. We had focused on branding and design, but then we focused a lot in hospitality. So we worked with some of the bigger players like Fairmont, St. Regis, Marriott groups, but we worked with smaller businesses as well in terms of hospitality, people just looking to enter the market, and then focused a lot on e-commerce as well. So working on digital design, UI, UX for, whether it's anything from a new vape store, fashion, anything that could be kind of bought and sold online. Again, and then pivoted myself to focus more just on the digital stuff, and that's now at Nav 43. So we're focusing on a lot of e-commerce plays there, and there's been a lot of interesting developments there with COVID and what people's strategies are. But with them, again, we work with a variety of clients, from standard retail clients to larger e-commerce clients, payroll processors. Ceridian's one of our clients. We work directly with a lot of web development companies, and fit in within their workflow, from everything from SEO site migrations, which can be boring stuff, to content strategy, to information architecture, a lot of things there. And then as Peter, right now currently working more of a fractional head of sales and marketing and strategist for business as well. And that's focusing on anything from e-commerce to finance, to payment processing. Yeah, that's kind of the quick roundup right now.
Wow, sounds like a busy guy. You've done a lot and you're doing a lot right now. So congratulations on your success, man. You've been doing well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been busy. I think ups and downs with COVID, but yeah, the last decade or so has been a bit of a grind.
Let's talk about that for a bit. Let's talk about COVID and being in the marketing industry and having clients that are needing to navigate and pivot during this time. What are you starting to see companies do, maybe specifically your clients or other companies, but what are you starting to see them do to sort of maximize what's happening during this time?
Yeah, so I think it was kind of this rollout, right? Because no one knew necessarily what was going to happen next, or what our government would say the next level of restrictions are. So you kind of saw this in Ontario, this wind down of business until we're kind of at a standstill. That first wave of non-essential businesses really, first and foremost hit the hospitality industry pretty hard, hospitality and tourism. And then it just funneled down to basically anything that isn't sustainable for us to kind of go on with their life. So I think there was an element of shock first, of, okay, what do we do? What do we do with our business? How can we keep people employed? I think that was probably a first decision for a lot of employers over what their marketing plan might be. And there was also a bit of a delay in a sense of what are the opportunities here in terms of reimbursements for the government, because first you got told you had to close, and then there was, okay, a 10% reimbursement. Well, that's probably not going to save my business. And then I think the Fed stepped up again, and Trudeau then announced, up to 75% reimbursement. So that was kind of the first thing people really had to learn is, what does my business plan look like going forward? In terms of what are my actual operational costs, what are the new normal? And now we've seen kind of the last step for retail businesses of actually seeing some type of rent relief. So I think once all those things were learned, you could actually say, am I going to stay open? Am I allowed to stay open? And what new avenues can I continue doing business? And I think that's where you saw a lot of people have to come up with a bit of an e-commerce strategy overnight, or a pivot in their day-to-day business. And then you have the businesses that are able to really see potential as long-term opportunity, that I'm not going to be able to do anything now, but what can I do to help the future? So I think that's where the wheels were turning for a little bit, and then understanding what they can do to potentially turn on an e-commerce strategy overnight, because that's the only thing that they could do to kind of keep their business going. So it really started, I think, with the government interventions and learning what was available to them and what they could do, and then turning on a marketing strategy. And it's very industry specific. So certain industries have certainly been rocked by this. If you're, we have clients in F43 that were cruise line. Well, you're not selling cruises right now. So that's someone, unfortunately, there you have to think post-COVID. But then you have e-commerce clients. We have a CBD client that had to close their retail locations, but then saw the opportunity for e-commerce and what they could do there, and then maybe double down on an SEO strategy to help drive sales, because you see all of a sudden this uptake with people spending their time online and they can't go to physical locations. What can we do to double down on an e-commerce strategy? So I do think it's very industry specific of what your plan is going to be in short and long term.
That's awesome. And you're absolutely right. I was talking to another friend of mine about companies that are traditional brick and mortar. They rely on people walking in, and now there's nobody on the street anymore. And he's like, okay, well, why don't we just create you a Shopify account, and then you customers online, right? And you're starting to see a lot more companies do that. I want to talk about the economy and sort of the trends, or not really trends, but I want to talk about the economy and how you think this is going to change the consumer behavior on the other end of this, because like you said, people are starting to purchase more online. They are not as comfortable exchanging physical money. What do you think this is going to do for consumer behavior in terms of our purchasing and the way that we discover a new brand?
Yeah, I do think we're training people even more to increase their comfort level for an e-commerce experience. I think we're training different generations of people to be more comfortable communicating via Zoom call, something we're doing right now. I think everyone's probably had some type of a funny experience with an older relative right now about setting up a Zoom call. I did a Zoom Easter call, and I think you'd see, one of these kind of talking to you like, hi, everyone, how's it going? So, but now what's happening is, as those hiccups change, all of a sudden this different type of generation who may not have been as comfortable with an e-commerce experience, it is learning that, whether it's, getting necessities, something like groceries. I think we've seen that explode. That's something, as a digital native, I was always very comfortable with ordering my groceries online. I found it very convenient. I liked it, whether it was going to a Penguin pickup or something like that. But now I think we're going to see that kind of expand to different generations, that e-commerce is going to become a lot more comfortable for people. And I think as a business, it got put in your face that you might need an e-commerce strategy, even if you were this traditional retail store that relied on people walking in. Because if you kind of talk about in terms of the economy, well, I think a few things are worried. we're often hearing that this might be an 18-month issue. As much as in Ontario right now, we're looking forward to, situations being eased in as much as 2 weeks. Businesses are going to be a little hesitant to reinvest and start up again if all of a sudden they can be shut down at a day's notice. So they're going to have to think about that in how much do they want to commit to, reopening their brick and mortar shop if all of a sudden our testing numbers spike again and everything's shut down. And then in terms of the economy, it's what's going to happen in terms of commercial real estate over the next 18 months if people just don't want to continue with their brick and mortar experience. Maybe they've realized they have a better e-commerce experience or something along those lines. So those are the things that are on my mind right now is, what happens if we get shut down again? What happens when commercial businesses don't want to pay their rent anymore or are too scared to open up because they might shut down again? And then from the marketing perspective is, I think we've opened a lot of people's eyes to what communication and what shopping habits look like online.
Yeah, and it's giving a lot of opportunity for companies to extract data and figure out, okay, well, we have this age demographic, have more males, more females. We can target people on these times of the days because people are online now. Let's face it, we have nothing else to do. So people are on Instagram more, people are on Twitter more. I'm sure Facebook is seeing a spike in activity. I'm seeing a spike in my Facebook feed. People that were never on before are all of a sudden doing these little games on Facebook, divulging all this information about their potential passwords,
Yeah, definitely seen that. And that's right. So that continues. Another thought that's obviously important is what is everyone's content strategy? This is something you and I talk about quite often. But as people are also spending more time online, that's where I'm seeing a lot of people invest in their long-term marketing goals. Is what does a content strategy look like? That people are spending all this time online, they have to consume something. If you're not watching Netflix or streaming, you're probably in front of your computer or your phone right now.
Exactly. And what I'm noticing is that companies are investing in the traditional sort of, tear jerker, thank you to our healthcare workers, and a bunch of stock footage because nobody's shooting anything. And hey, we're going to give back, or, Tim Hortons is free coffee for any essential workers, or, companies are like banks, for example, they're putting out content that, relief efforts. And that's what they're doing right now to sort of attract the market. And I guess that's all they can do right now because you're not seeing any big commercials being created, and you can't really make a big marketing effort because you don't know what people's purchasing decisions are going to be like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something maybe of a luxury for the bigger businesses to kind of step up on their corporate social responsibility. And you've kind of seen everyone, maybe, like you said, bigger banks, things like that, put together stock footage. There was a brief, there was a marketing guy that says, hey, this is an opportunity to position ourselves in a good light. That isn't a luxury for a small business. In a medium-sized business, and those are the people that really are being affected by this the most. So yeah, that's a great strategy for them to kind of improve brand sentiment during this downtime. That I saw Bank X do this promo and they helped out the healthcare workers or something like that. But it isn't that luxury for someone who is like, how do I keep my 10 or 15 employees paid? Oh, and how do I keep these clients if my business just got rocked overnight?
Yeah, you're totally right. The small businesses don't have that luxury. You're seeing restaurants close down because they just can't afford it. They can't just pivot like everyone else. But you're also seeing the rise of some businesses like Good Food that already deliver food to your house, and they're probably getting a lot more business at this point, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's switch gears for a bit. And we were talking about this a little bit in sort of like the pre-interview when we were just kind of catching up, but you're spending a lot of time, right? Like people are spending a lot of time inside, and we don't have those things that we can just distract ourselves with. We don't have the water cooler conversations at work, and we just have to be inside and face ourselves every day. Everybody is learning things about themselves now that they didn't already know, because everything, it's this time by yourself is uncovering things about yourself that you didn't know existed. What are some of the things that you are figuring out about yourself, you're learning about yourself, maybe that you like or don't like, and how are you coping with that?
Yeah, I think again, it happened in stages because none of this is normal to be locked down almost 24/7, where you're kind of leaving for groceries or you walk the dog. When you're outside, it isn't the normal feeling of I'm just going for a walk. It's where you see someone walking down and you're like, oh, who's crossing the street? So that's, obviously the new normal's gone. Even when you're at home, it's not the normal. So I felt it was the first, week or two was all right. Let's kind of roll with this, have some fun, maybe have a couple glasses of wine at night, watch a movie, and then there's this realization that this isn't going to be a 2 week thing. And I think at that point it was find a new routine and maybe try to find one quickly and establish a few things that are going to make this negative a little bit more of a positive and find a way to be productive. So that was kind of the first things that had to happen because you're not yourself right now because all those things you took for granted are gone about your normal day-to-day life. Going to the grocery store isn't the same. Going for a walk isn't the same. Nothing is really the new normal. Filling up your gas tank and having to hand sanitize after and all these things that maybe you should have been doing anyways, but it wasn't anyone's normal. So I think that was kind of the adjustment period. And then there was, okay, I need to create what my new normal looks like. So I think that was kind of the first stage is really what does my new routine look like? And what does my new day-to-day look like? And then, you and I were talking about this as well, is if you have a spouse or a partner with you, that then takes on kind of this new normal as well. Because I don't know many people that had breakfast, lunch, and dinner and slept next to the person every night for 45 days straight and just didn't have any of that alone time while you're also understanding who this new version of you is during a quarantine.
It takes a lot. It would take a lot to be living with someone and have to understand that they're going through all these different stages real time in front of you and coexist and find a way not to kill each other.
Absolutely. So, we chatted a little bit about this earlier, but communication is obviously a really important thing. I think with your partner, your spouse, asking, is there anything I can do for you? Or is there anything I'm doing that's currently bothering you? Because I think it's easy to get into a passive aggressive state. So I think communicating on those things is important and still finding the opportunity to still do things as a couple, that you normally do, whether it's making a nicer dinner and setting the table that night and trying to make things a little bit more fancy. Or we've been doing a lot of group kind of Zoom calls where the two of us will call a couple that we normally would have hung out with on a Friday night and spend some time with them and, have a drink together or something like that. And again, find out what that new normal is together. Because it's difficult because not only are you now locked down with this person, you're not even the person you normally are. You're this version of yourself in quarantine that has a heightened sense of anxiety, that is not getting to do the things they normally do that feed their own happiness or creativeness or experience or any of those things. So that you now have to get along with each other at this new stage with all these things happening and then consuming all the news. So it can definitely be difficult. So I think talking with your partner is definitely important.
That's awesome. That's like a blueprint for a successful relationship. Bang by Petey.
I do think it's definitely a difficult time for a lot of relationships out there, but I think any tips or hints I could give that could help some people out, yeah, I don't think any relationship's going to be easy at this point. I've been lucky. I think Michelle, my partner, has been very understanding and maybe has looked past some of my habits that maybe she hadn't seen before. Well, we were both going to work and now we're both living together. So I have to give her a big shout out for being very patient with me as well during this time.
What I don't know if you want to get into the habits that you have, but mine is I'm not showering every day. That's for damn sure. I'm wearing the same pair of socks for like 6, 7 days straight. That's my thing. That doesn't really bother me. For some reason, I let my nails grow. I never let my nails grow, but I've cut them now. But I've let them grow for like 8, 9 days in a row, just for no reason. Um, that's just somehow
Oh,
what I've
yeah,
done.
I think some new things, even though we said, pick up the new routine. Uh, I used to be more of although I never enjoyed it, I was an exercise before work guy, just to get it out of the way, right? I was going to F45, which was great. It's around the corner, and I would go at 7:15, and then it was done. I'd be home at 8, make breakfast, and then be able to start the work day. And because I never really enjoyed it, I realized there's probably no point of continuing to wake up that early to exercise at a time I don't really like. So the new routine, which has been very interesting in a sense, is I've stopped setting an alarm, which might not be working for everyone, but I found it as a new opportunity to not necessarily set an alarm anymore and naturally wake up every day. And I'm probably never going to have this opportunity again, and haven't had it since I was, I think, back in school, where I think first year, first semester, picked a bunch of 8:30 classes because that's when high school started anyways, and didn't think it was a big deal. Well, I didn't realize that, in university, pretty much everyone becomes nocturnal, uh, and stays up super late, and 8:30 became this distant time zone that I never saw again. So after first semester, I never scheduled an 8:30 class again, scheduled 11 a.m. classes. Um, and since then, I've really, I think everyone, even on weekends, I set an alarm, right? So that's been different, that I was just like, I'm just not going to set an alarm, and I'm going to set my exercise schedule. I set it at, 5:36 every day, and really have set a definitive end to the workday. So wake up, choose whatever tracksuit I'm going to wear that day, whatever sweats, you're going to put on. Haven't been getting haircuts, so maybe you got to decide what hat you might want to put on for the Zoom calls. And yeah, kind of get into the workday mode. But that's been interesting. And on the hygiene tip, I'm not great at toenails, so I know what you're saying. It's something that for some reason I can forget about, and look at it like, oh, I got to get around to that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe part of it is just being a guy and just being, well, this is now my chance to be a slob, and no one's gonna judge me for it because I think everybody else socially is just being a slob. Because why? Why not? I want to thank you for your time. Appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I think you had a lot to offer, and hopefully people have something to take away from this, especially in the marketing and business talk that we had. Is there anything that you want to add? Is there sort of any like websites you want to plug, anything like that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you guys, well, first, thanks for having me today. But you can always check out what we're doing on the digital side of things at nav43.com, NAV43.com. Helping a lot of people out right now with any of their e-commerce or digital strategies.
Great. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, and stay safe. And hopefully you and your girl can continue the communication and find a way to not kill each other in the process.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm hoping for that too. Thank you.
All right, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks.